Welcome. In 1952, archaeologists discovered something in a cave near the Dead Sea that shouldn't exist. Not parchment, not papyrus, not clay, copper. A scroll made of pure copper, hidden in a cave for 2,000 years. And when they finally opened it after 3 years, because the metal had oxidized into a solid block, they found something that changed everything. It wasn't religious text, it wasn't philosophy, it wasn't history, it was a treasure map. 64 locations. Specific directions, distances measured in cubits. Landmarks described in detail. And at each location, gold, silver, sacred vessels, scrolls. The estimated value over 100 tons of precious metals. In today's money, billions of dollars. The problem: nobody has found a single piece. Not one coin, not one vessel, not one scrap of gold. Despite expeditions, excavations, ground-penetrating radar, and decades of searching, nothing was the treasure real. Was it hidden by the Essenes before the Romans destroyed Jerusalem? Was it the temple treasury, buried before the siege of 70 CE? Or is it the greatest archaeological hoax in history? This is the story of the Copper Scroll, the only treasure map from the ancient world. The mystery that has consumed archaeologists, treasure hunters, and scholars for 70 years. And why, after all this time, we still haven't found what it promises. The discovery, March 14, 1952, Qumran, near the Dead Sea, Cave 3. French archaeologist Henri de Contenson and his team are excavating caves where Bedouin shepherds discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls 5 years earlier. They find 2 copper rolls, not scrolls rolls, oxidized, corroded, too fragile to unroll. The other Dead Sea Scrolls, parchment or papyrus, religious texts, biblical manuscripts, community rules. This pure copper, heavy, dense, different. It sits in a museum for 3 years. Nobody knows how to open it without destroying it. 1955. Professor H. Wright Baker at the University of Manchester proposes cutting it into strips. Controversial, destructive, but the only option. They build a special circular saw, cut the scroll into 23 strips, photograph each section, and then they read it. The translation, led by John Marco Allegro, reveals something nobody expected. Not scripture, not theology. They list 64 entries, each describing a location, each listing treasure. Entry 1. In the ruin that is in the valley of Acre, under the steps which go eastward, 40 cubits, a chest of silver weighing 17 talents. Entry 7. In the cavity of the old house of tribute, in the platform of the chain, 65 bars of gold. Entry 32. In the canal which is on the northern side of the reservoir. When you enter the reservoir, you will find buried at the entrance 10 talents of silver. On and on, 64 locations. Gold, silver, sacred vessels, and at one location another scroll, presumably with more information. Total estimated treasure, 100 to 200 tons of gold and silver. The Copper Scroll was not a religious text, it was an inventory, a treasure map, from 2,000 years ago. The authenticity debate. From the moment John Marco Allegro published his translation in 1960, scholars split into 2 camps. Camp 1. IT's real Professor Allegro himself believed the treasure was real. The temple treasury of Jerusalem, hidden before the Roman destruction in 70 CE. His reasoning: the scroll is copper. Copper was expensive. Nobody wastes expensive materials on fiction. If this were a literary fantasy, they'd use cheap parchment. The locations are specific, not vague legends. Precise measurements, real landmarks. The kind of detail you'd include if you actually wanted someone to find the treasure. The quantities are realistic for the Jerusalem temple. Historical sources describe immense wealth in the Second Temple. Josephus, the Jewish historian, wrote that the Romans looted gold beyond calculation when they sacked Jerusalem. But what if some was hidden first? A-list. The timing fits. The scroll dates to approximately 50 to 100 CE, right before or during the First Jewish-Roman War, when Jerusalem fell. Camp 2. IT's a hoax or fantasy. Most mainstream scholars, led by J.T. Mellick, argued the Copper Scroll is either folklore or deliberate fiction. Their reasoning? The quantities are absurd, 100 to 200 tons of precious metal. Where would the temple get that much? It's economically impossible for the period. The language is strange. The Hebrew's crude, unsophisticated, filled with terms not found in other Dead Sea Scrolls. It reads like someone trying to write ancient Hebrew but doing it poorly. No treasure has been found. Despite multiple expeditions, ground searches, and modern technology, nothing. If the treasure existed, someone would have found something by now. The locations don't match. Some landmarks mentioned in the scroll cannot be identified. Others seem to describe places that didn't exist in the time period. Dr. P. Kyle McCarter Jr., Johns Hopkins University, analyzed the language in 2007 and concluded the copper scroll may be a record of hidden temple treasure, but it could also be a pious fiction, a literary text describing an ideal treasure that never existed. The treasure hunters, despite scholarly skepticism, the copper scroll has launched dozens of treasure hunts. 1959 to 1960, John Marco Allegro organized the first official expedition. He excavated at Qumran and surrounding areas using the scroll's directions. He found nothing. Ancient pottery, ruins, no gold, no silver. He never gave up believing them. He spent the rest of his life convinced the treasure was real and still hidden. 1988. Vendell Jones, American archaeologist and treasure hunter. Vendell Jones, believed by some to be the inspiration for Indiana Jones, launched expeditions based on the copper scroll. He claimed to find a reddish substance he identified as ancient incense described in the scroll. Analysis was inconclusive. He found no precious metals. 2006. Jim Barfield, American arson investigator turned amateur archaeologist. Jim Barfield used the copper scroll and modern satellite imagery to identify potential locations. He believes the treasure is buried near Qumran. Israeli authorities denied him excavation permits. He has found nothing. 2009, Shelley Waxman and Richard Freund. Dr. Richard Freund, University of Hartford, used ground-penetrating radar at Qumran. He claimed to detect underground anomalies consistent with hidden chambers. Excavation permissions denied. Nothing recovered. The pattern repeats. Every few years, someone claims they've figured out the copper scroll's code. They request excavation permits. Israel usually denies them, and nothing is ever found. The theories: if the treasure exists, where is it? Theory 1. It was already looted. The Romans sacked Jerusalem in 70 CE. They were thorough. Maybe they found the hidden caches. The copper scroll was written, but the Romans discovered the locations independently and looted them. Problem: why hide a copper map if the treasure is already gone? Theory 2. The landmarks noted longer exist. 2,000 years of earthquakes, erosion, construction, and war have changed the landscape. The Valley of Acre might not be where we think it is. The platform of the chain might be buried under modern Jerusalem. The treasure could be there, we just don't know where there is anymore. Problem: some landmarks are identifiable. Excavations at those sites found nothing. Theory 3. IT's coded or encrypted. Some researchers believe the scroll uses codes. The directions might not be literal. 40 cubits east might mean something else. The landmarks might be metaphors. Dr. Robert Feather proposed the scroll uses Essene. Secret knowledge: only initiates would understand the real locations. Problem: if it's coded and the code holders are dead, the treasure is lost forever. Theory 4. IT was never buried. It's a legend, the most widely accepted academic theory. The copper scroll is folklore, a legend about hidden temple treasure, written down as if it were real. Ancient Jews, scattered after the destruction of Jerusalem, wanted to believe the sacred treasures were hidden, not destroyed. The copper scroll gave them that hope. Problem: why use expensive copper for a fairy tale? Theory 5. It's hidden in plain sight. Some believe the treasure is under locations we cannot excavate, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, for instance, one of the holiest sites in Judaism and Islam. Excavation is politically and religiously impossible. If treasure is buried there, we'll never know. The facts: we know the copper scroll is real. It exists. It's on display in the Jordan Museum in Amman. It dates to approximately 50 to 100 CE. Carbon dating and paleographic analysis confirm it's from the late Second Temple period. It's unique. No other Dead Sea Scroll is made of metal. No other ancient treasure map of this kind exists. The locations are specific. It lists real places: the Valley of Acre, the Aqueduct of Jericho, the Tomb of Zadok. Some are identifiable, others are not. No treasure has been found. Not one coin, not one artifact matching the scroll's descriptions. The language is authentic but odd. It's Hebrew, but grammatically irregular. Some words appear nowhere else in ancient Hebrew literature. The mystery remains 70 years after the copper scroll was discovered. We still don't know the truth. Is there a treasure? Maybe. Will we ever find it? Probably not. The landscape has changed too much. The landmarks are gone or unrecognizable. The political situation makes excavation nearly impossible in key areas. And if it was real, it's possible someone found it 2,000 years ago and never told anyone. Or maybe the treasure was never meant to be found. Maybe it was a message of hope, a promise that the sacred wealth of the temple wasn't lost, that when the Messiah came, he would restore it all. The copper scroll sits in a museum now. Visitors stare at the corroded strips of metal, reading translations posted beside them. In the cistern below the rampart on the east side, In a hollow in the rock, 600 bars of silver. In the tunnel of the water conduit, 70 talents of silver and 2 talents of gold. Somewhere, maybe under Jerusalem, maybe in the Judean desert, maybe nowhere at all, 100 tons of gold and silver, hidden by people who knew the Romans were coming, protected by codes and riddles and time, waiting or gone. We'll probably never know. And maybe that's the point.